Usually reserved, Melania Trump is furious. The woman who wants to be First Lady is taking on several media outlets that she says printed false reports about her personal life. Now Melania is threatening to sue. Les Trent.
Joke. Funny thing to say. He's had a real problem with Elon from the beginning of this thing, but it's like he's in this leftist. He's in the most leftist thought bubble available, which is Hollywood, and I think also, he. Famously, there's some videos of him in blackface, and those came out, and he had apologized for them, and I think he took that hit and really doubled down in the other direction.
Jimmy Kimmel. For the fourth time, Kimmel hosted the Oscars before an adoring crowd of Hollywood stars who laughed and curried favor with the man who wore blackface so many times he's second only to Justin Trudeau in his fondness for the practice. Yes, some of the very same celebrities who wanted you to believe they were horrified after yours truly said in 2018 that people used to don dark makeup in order to imitate well-known black celebrities, and it wasn't a big deal.
Joe Rogan and Rogan Kelly just turned Jimmy Kimmel's worst nightmare into primetime comedy fire. After Melania Trump slapped him with a $100 million 0 cents lawsuit, Rogan ripped into his downfall with raw honesty, while Megyn shredded his fake moral high ground like a burning legal memo. The man who once laughed from behind a desk is now the target of every punchline. If Karma had a studio audience, this would be her grand finale.
And you need to defend yourself all the time. As you may heard, I file a few lawsuits, and I'm in the court now because they accuse me of doing stuff that I never did in my life, and they wrote lies, and I will not allow that. I will fight till the end because I don't want that they damage my reputation and my name.
Late night comics would come on, and they occasionally would make us laugh, Piers. I mean, occasionally they understood that they were in the game of making everyone laugh. As you know, they've abandoned that game now, and they're just political operatives out there. Colbert, Kimmel, Seth Meyers, who I struggle to even mention that guy's name. He's such an absolute prick.
Joe Rogan didn't hold back. He hit like a wrecking ball with the sharpness of jiu-jitsu and the confidence of a podcast king. The second news broke that Melania Trump had launched a $100 million 0 cents lawsuit against Jimmy Kimmel, Rogan didn't flinch. He leaned in, gave that signature smirk, and dug in like it was a prime elk steak on day one of his carnivore diet. To Rogan, the idea that Jimmy Kimmel TV's loudest moral preacher had triggered the former First Lady into unleashing a legal firestorm was beyond funny. It was justice served with whipped cream. The man who spent years turning late-night TV into tear-stained lectures finally pushed someone too far, and she said enough.
Obviously, Kimmel's love of blackface was not a deal breaker for ABC, which already employs him as a late-night host, and which, in addition to its many blackface awards shows, also produced and promoted many shows and stars in blackface. It appears the real sin with blackface, you see, is talking about how standards on it have.
Joe began with Kimmel's transformation or collapse. He wasn't always like this. There was a time when Jimmy cracked jokes, had fun, and didn't act like he was saving the world. Now he's a full-time finger wagger with a teleprompter and a hero complex. Rogan called it a spiritual makeover paid for by celebrity praise. The end result? A smug preacher pretending to be a comedian.
There's not a chance in hell that this is funny or gonna work. And when you see those flat, corny, late-night monologue jokes with no audience, Colbert, there's Jimmy Kimmel, there's Fallon. What they're doing is just like reading off of a teleprompter. So a bunch of really good joke writers wrote them some stuff, and then they're playing to the audience, and the audience is like laughing, so they get this feedback, and they know how to do that. They stand there, and there's applause signs. And then there's producers. There's the warm-up guy that's literally telling people to clap. They're like, okay, explaining to the people, okay, when Jimmy comes out, I want a big round of applause.
But nothing Joe exposed was more ridiculous than Kimmel mocking others and pretending it's activism. This is the same guy preaching empathy while laughing at Melania's accent. As if that's bold. Let's not forget, she's never run for office, never held real power, and still Kimmel made her the punchline of his recycled rants. But the second she fires back with a lawsuit, his camp suddenly cries about free speech, like they just found the Constitution under their coffee table.
For the practice, yes, some of the very same celebrities who wanted you to believe they were horrified after yours truly said in 2018 that people used to don dark makeup in order to imitate well-known black celebrities and it wasn't a big deal. Absolutely ate up the performance by Hollywood darling Mr. Kimmel, whose blackface costumes included his oft-repeated bit as basketball star Karl Malone.
Now, Karl Malone never seen no flying saucer himself, but if he do, that's gonna be a
And let's not forget Oprah.
Rogan couldn't help but laugh at the irony. Here's a man who hides behind comedy when he offends, but the second someone strikes back, he turns into the victim. Joe joked that the only thing thinner than Kimmel's punchlines these days is his skin. Melania files a lawsuit, and suddenly Jimmy's got a legal army and a squad of emotional support interns crying that Satire's under siege. Then Joe got precise. He reminded everyone that during the Trump years, yes, President Trump again, Kimmel built a whole career mocking from a comfy studio, tossing jokes at a family that couldn't swing back like politicians do. But now, Melania's flipped the script with a legal hammer, and Jimmy just found out the target can hit back. Joe didn't blame her one bit. He figured she'd had enough of being late night's easiest target, especially for comics too lazy to write something fresh. And with Trump back in office, the timing couldn't be more perfect. Rogan pictured Jimmy spiraling, not just over the lawsuit, but terrified someone finally outraged him. The man who sobbed on air to seem honest now faces a courtroom reckoning, and Joe didn't just laugh, he called it justice. Kimmel, once self-declared moral compass, now owes big to the very woman he mocked, and the price tag could buy half of Beverly Hills.
Jimmy Kimmel's a loser. I do Jimmy Kimmel. I did him a lot.
Yeah.
And he'd be standing on the sidewalk. Oh, sir, may I bring you in? He'd bring me in every time. The whole show is talking bad about Trump.
He called us doofuses when we had you on.
He's a group of in flat-brimmed hats.
Guess what? We
Ask
did
him how
5x
many.
what he did.
Ask him. Yeah, you do bigger. Yeah, you do.
Then came Rogan Kelly. Sharp, calm, and absolutely ready for battle. She didn't just join the moment, she took the stage like a lawyer who had waited years to make her case. Jimmy Kimmel wasn't just a topic, he was Exhibit A, and Megyn had a closing argument that hit like a gavel. She opened with his hypocrisy. Jimmy Kimmel, once the goofy late-night prankster, now hiding behind big words like justice and principles, as if reading from a dictionary in front of a cheering crowd made it real. But strip it all away, Megyn said, and it's just a show. Kimmel doesn't care about truth, he cares about claps, and he'll run over anyone to get them. Then she's zeroed in, not on herself, but on the years Kimmel spent mocking Melania, treating her like a foreign prop with no voice or brain. Yet here she was, flipping the entire board with a lawsuit so terrifying it could send Jimmy from luxury red carpets to selling used hybrids in a heartbeat. Megyn tore apart his phony bravery. Kimmel pretends to challenge power, but the power he picks on is a mother and model who got judged for her wardrobe and accent, not her words. Megyn said if that's courage, then tweeting in all caps must be a revolutionary act.
You know how much it costs to produce Jimmy Kimmel's show? I guarantee you it's tens and tens of millions. It could be as much as 100 million. I have no idea. You know how much Tucker's video cost? Nothing. You know how much Jimmy Kimmel, how many people he gets tuning in on an average night? Just last week, his average was, in the overall, meaning all viewers, 1.5 million. In the key demo, 236,000. Tucker would have been embarrassed to pull that on any night he was on the Fox News channel.
But Megyn didn't stop at the lawsuit. She tore into Kimmel's whole career makeover. From frat boy goofball to weepy political preacher, she exposed the entire switch. The guy who once hosted skits with girls on trampolines now scolds America on feminism, right between ads for binge-worthy shows. Megyn called it out. This isn't growth, it's opportunism wearing foundation, and she relished the moment. President Trump back in the White House, while Jimmy's stuck replaying his tired bits from 2017 like we're all trapped in a bad rerun. But no one's laughing now. The jokes expired. The targets, predictable. And those targets, they're fighting back. With lawsuits, not one-liners, Megyn laid it out. This isn't about silencing comedy, it's about demanding consequences. Kimmel thought applause and a few Twitter likes made him untouchable. But now, he's staring down one of the biggest celebrity lawsuits in modern memory. And the best he can do? Act like the system he milked is now unfair. Megyn even dragged his PR game, Kimmel's team leaking sob stories, hinting he's under emotional strain, begging the media to spin it as a warning for comics. Megyn shut it down, calling it the desperate whimper of a man who never thought his medicine would be served back to him in court.
We're 3 times what Jimmy Kimmel gets. And Tucker's little basement video that he did from clearly like his cabin that he broadcasts out of Maine in literally has 21 million views. Okay? 21 million views. Whereas, as I point out, on ABC, a massive network that comes into your home for free, that you have to make no effort to find, at best, Jimmy Kimmel can get 1.5 million. He needs to have a little self-perspective before going out there and hurling these insults because he looks a little...
And let's not forget, Megyn reminded everyone this is happening with Donald Trump back in the White House. The same Trump Jimmy swore would never return. The man who became Kimmel's entire identity is now back in charge, while Melania is armed with lawyers, and Kimmel's sarcasm looks as outdated as last week's punchlines. Then back to Rogan, who saw something even bigger in Kimmel's collapse. This wasn't just one lawsuit. It was the fall of a comedy culture that forgot how to actually be funny. Joe said late night TV used to be bold, fearless, and wild. Now, it's just therapy with a laugh track. And Kimmel? He became the face of that collapse. Joe torched the teary monologues, the fake activism, the lazy moral outrage, the clapping for clout. Rogan said Kimmel stopped being a comic and became a glorified hall monitor with a script. A guy who traded laughs for likes. And now, he's learning that self-righteousness doesn't stand a chance in court. Then Megyn came back to drive it home, slamming Hollywood's glaring hypocrisy. The same industry that screams about empowering women stayed quiet while Kimmel mocked Melania for years. And now, not a word, not even a fake tweet of support. Why? Megyn said it plain, because this woman isn't in their club.
How weak and pathetic is a guy like that? The Tonight Show, which is dying. They're all dying. Where's Johnny Carson? Bring back Johnny. It made you appreciate, right, Uncle Sam? It made you appreciate the greatness of Johnny Carson. I go on a show, and he goes, "Is that your real hair?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you mind if I mess it up?" So he grabs it, and he starts really going crazy, right? And everybody laughed, and it was a big thing, and it was a big hit. It was all over the place, and he got great ratings and all. And 6 months later, he went out because he was under pressure to apologize because he humanized Donald.
She said this lawsuit wasn't killing comedy, it was bringing back consequences. And Jimmy Kimmel, after years of tossing darts from his desk, was finally feeling what it's like when one hits him right between the eyes. Together, Rogan and Megyn peeled back the curtain on Kimmel's worst fear, not getting sued, but getting exposed. The man behind the smug jokes wasn't a fearless truth teller, he was a jittery narcissist hooked on clap. The studio might still play the laugh track, but the mask had fallen. Joe called it karmic judo. Mock someone long enough and you just might flip yourself onto the floor. And Megyn, she called it justice. Served cold, with lawyers, receipts, and one jaw-dropping invoice. The man who dished punchlines now looked like he was dodging subpoenas. And the wildest part? He still didn't get it. This wasn't about one bad joke. It was years of smug mockery finally stapled to a massive bill. Joe imagined Kimmel pacing in his Hollywood office, oat milk in hand, while lawyers explained that no, shouting satire won't make a courtroom disappear.
Last night was the 96th Academy Awards show, and while you might have missed it, there was one clear winner. No, not Oppenheimer. It was sanctimonious leftists for their lead role in pretending they are better than you. Winner number 1, Jimmy Kimmel. For the 4th time, Kimmel hosted the Oscars before an adoring crowd of Hollywood stars who laughed and curried favor with the man.
The same man who turned late night TV into a live therapy session was now quietly praying the judge liked Netflix reruns and had a soft spot for faded comics. Rogan joked that if Kimmel pulled out his usual tear guild apology act in court, even the stenographer might lose it laughing. Then Megyn came back in, razor sharp, and called out the deafening silence from Kimmel's usual cheerleaders. Where were the comedians? The activists? The stars who once rushed to applaud his political monologues? Gone. Vanished. The moment clapping became risky, the applause dried up. Megyn didn't sugarcoat it, she called it the coward's retreat. No one wanted their name anywhere near a lawsuit with a 9-figure price tag, so the so-called moral defenders bolted faster than last night's ratings drop.
Now, I will tell you, he's not the worst. The Daily Show has the worst ratings. They only have 366,000 people watching that show. During the Jon Stewart years, it was over 2 million. Now it's down to 300,000. Seth Meyers, absolutely dreadful. He doesn't even have 1 million, 778,000. I mean, for network television, this is, you don't have to pay for it. It's there when you turn on your TV, you plug it in. That's a dreadful number. Greg Gutfeld on cable, which you do have to pay for, it has more than double the numbers of Seth Meyers. Jimmy Kimmel, 1.5 million averaging, also equally horrible. And then there's The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, who back when I was there, 2017-18, he was averaging 2.3 million a night. Now he's down to 1.3 million, Jesse. And he cannot afford the "you are toxic" controversy because he's also pulling in reportedly over $15 million a year. So you got all that money for 1.5 million in audience, which is a nothing. I mean, the middle of the day on Fox News gets that. Or at least used to before the Tucker controversy.
She highlighted the sheer absurdity of it all. Kimmel, once hailed as late night's conscience, now reduced to a panicked millionaire under pressure. The man who judged others night after night was finally under the lens himself. No applause, no cameras, just courtrooms, cold evidence, and a woman who'd had enough. Rogan wrapped it all up with one last jab, saying Kimmel's legacy wouldn't be the guy who spoke truth to power, but the guy sued by a former first lady for being too arrogant to see the line he crossed. In Trump's second term, irony wasn't dead, it had just filed legal papers. And while the court handles the damages, Joe and Megyn made sure the real verdict had already landed.